Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. We have a lot to discuss. Did you watch the World Cup? Huge crowd, big crowd here on Marcus Street for the watch party. As a matter of fact, we have a comment from a viewer last night. Didn't make it to the watch party, but watched without a crowd. I will say I'm bummed. I was cheering on Argentina, but Spain clearly showed what they had. Hope you enjoyed the game. We had a blast on Marcus. Let me see. I got a couple photos. Not great photos, but I got photos. There you go. There was our watch party. A good crowd on Marcus Street in Corning. I see the Trump. I actually left before this happened, so I missed it. But President Trump congratulated the players from Spain and Argentina, for an epic World Cup final game before briefly crashing Argentina's trophy lift photo. The former trophy's lift photo following the team's win, prompting FIFA President Gianni Infantino to intervene. Trump, who enjoyed the big game from the box seat alongside members of his administration and other world leaders, came onto the field to audible boos to honor Spain after the 1-0 victory over Argentina. The U.S. president was joined by FIFA's president, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and others who handed out the award. They began by giving match officials their awards, then distributing them to the two teams, with Argentina recognized as the World Cup runner-up. Players shook Trump's hand as he put the medals around their necks. Afterward, Trump and Infantino gave Spain its golden trophy, and La Roja proceeded to pose for a photo on the medal platform. But Trump was seen walking across the stage when he pumped his fist and cheered on the champions. He then meandered off to the side, briefly appearing to pose with the champions. Trump likely got into a few photos of the Spain trophy lift before Infantino had been seen nudging him away to give Spain's team its moment. Ironically, Trump had badmouthed Spain before the game due to an ongoing feud with the Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez over Madrid's lack of support in the war against Iran, saying, quote, "Spain is a wasted cause. We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore. By the way, I'd like to cut it off. Spain is a terrible partner in NATO. Cut off all trade with Spain, please, including visits. We don't want anything to do with them. They're hopeless, bad people." So Spain winning yesterday. Now, Riley Gaines had a piece at Fox News this morning saying some of the most wholesome stories on the internet lately haven't come from celebrities or influencers. They've come from people visiting America for the first time because of the World Cup. Take Sebastian, for example. Sebastian is a German soccer fan who flew to the United States initially apprehensive. Like so many people overseas, he'd spent years consuming headlines portraying America as a country overrun by crime, division, and chaos. Before he even stepped off the plane, he was worried about his safety. Sebastian watched Germany play Paraguay in Boston. After the game, he found himself stranded without a way back to his hotel. That's when he met a man named Bob. Bob didn't know Sebastian. He didn't ask politics. He didn't care where he was from. He saw a man in need and didn't think twice about helping out by giving him a ride back to his hotel. In a video that's now been viewed millions of times, Sebastian fought back tears while describing the kindness he experienced from Bob. He admitted he was more upset about leaving America than he was about Germany being eliminated from the World Cup. I could think of plenty of Americans I'd trade for Sebastian, says Riley Gaines. With only the championship match remaining, social media has been flooded with videos from international visitors documenting what they found here. They rave about the hospitality of ordinary Americans. They marvel at our diversity, our national parks, our food, our culture, and yes, even our patriotism. They've danced in the street with complete strangers after matches. They've sung "Take Me Home, Country Roads," shoulder to shoulder with thousands of Americans they've never met. They've stood speechless overlooking the Grand Canyon. They've tried real American barbecue for the first time. They've talked about feeling welcomed in cities that they've been told, and we've been told, to fear. Watching these videos, I kept asking myself one question, says Riley Gaines. Why do people from halfway around the world seem to appreciate America more than so many Americans do? Maybe it's because they haven't spent years being told to hate it. For decades, we've been fed a version of America that focuses almost exclusively on what's broken. Turn on the news and you'd think our streets are constantly on fire. Neighbors hate one another, and every conversation ends in a political screaming match. That's simply not how most Americans live their life. The unfortunate reality is outrage sells. Fear gets clicks, and conflict gets ratings. Good news rarely goes viral because it's harder to monetize content that leaves people feeling hopeful. If you consume outrage all day, eventually you become outraged. If every headline tells you the country is falling apart, eventually you start believing the country is falling apart. The same anti-American propaganda is being pushed in our education system. Teachers, professors, and other educators are quick to teach students about America's failures while hardly covering any of its success. Kids learn at a young age that America is filled with colonizers and oppressors, and are left feeling shameful and guilty for the heritage or for their skin color. For clarity, I'm not saying we shouldn't teach students about slavery, segregation, Japanese internment, and every other dark chapter of our history. Pretending those things never happened serves no one. But that's not the whole story. We also abolished slavery. We defeated fascism. We landed on the moon. We built the most innovative economy the world has ever seen. Millions of people have willingly left behind everything for their chance to achieve the American dream. That doesn't happen by accident. Loving our country doesn't require believing it's perfect. It requires recognizing that despite its flaws, it's worth protecting and improving. Ironically, it took millions of foreign soccer fans to remind many Americans of that. Sports have always had a way of cutting through the noise. Anyone who's ever played on a team or even sat in the stands knows it. It's the one place where identities and feelings don't matter. Well, at least they shouldn't. Nobody cares what color of your skin is when you score the game-winning goal. Nobody asks whether you're Catholic, Baptist, Jewish, Muslim, or only show up to church on Easter or Christmas. Nobody pauses to ask who you voted for before celebrating a touchdown or lifting a trophy. The only thing that matters are your ability levels and your dedication to winning. Fans aren't much different. For 90 minutes, thousands of complete strangers become one team. They cheer together, celebrate together, and sometimes even cry together. That's the kind of unity we've been told is impossible, yet it happens every single weekend in stadiums across America. Sports reminds us of something we've forgotten in almost every other part of American life. We have a lot more in common than the people and institutions making money off our division would like us to believe. The World Cup didn't magically make America kinder. It just gave the rest of the world an excuse to see the America that has always existed beneath the clickbait headlines. The America where someone like Bob helps a stranded stranger because it's the right thing to do. It's the same America that millions of visitors are now discovering isn't the caricature they've been sold. My biggest takeaway from the World Cup isn't about soccer at all. Maybe it's that America looks a whole lot better when you experience it yourself instead of letting someone else tell you what to think about it. Most Americans could stand to remember that too. I thought that was a really nice piece by Riley Gaines. Andrew Giuliani said that President Trump's World Cup vision showed America at its very best. He said, "I remember the moment he gave me my main mission," Andrew Giuliani said, "make it the best tournament ever. Simple, but not easy. With President Trump, nothing is ever done halfway. Early in his second term, he established the White House task force on the 2026 FIFA World Cup, making clear this would be a whole of government effort. We set out to deliver not only the largest and safest World Cup, but also the most welcoming and memorable tournament in history for fans, athletes, and communities across America. Now, Andrew Giuliani was the executive, or is, I guess, the executive director of the White House task force of the FIFA World Cup. He said, as we look ahead to the Olympics and America's next chapter, let this World Cup stand proof that when President Trump sets an ambitious vision, America delivers. We welcome the world with unmatched hospitality, world-class venues, unwavering security, and the confidence that has always defined the nation at its best. Americans fell in love with the World Cup, and the world fell in love with America again. That is the enduring legacy of the 2026 FIFA World Cup and the future of sports and America's golden age. So there you go, a little bit of soccer talk. Big news coming out yesterday. J.D. Vance and Usha Vance welcomed their baby boy. That seems quick, didn't it? The first child born to a sitting vice president in more than 150 years. That's an interesting statistic. That's coming from the Associated Press. First child born to a sitting vice president in more than 150 years. Born Sunday, Alec Neil Vance joins older siblings Ewan, who's 9, Vivek, who's 6, and Maribel, who's 4. Announcing on social media, JD said, we are excited to announce that our baby boy, Alec Neil Vance, was born this morning. Usha and the baby are happy and healthy, and our kids are overjoyed to meet their little brother. They thank doctors and staff at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and with the White House medical team. The Republican vice president's growing family is keeping with his passionate advocacy for Americans to have more children. He also suggested that the 2025 killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who was his friend, factored into the decision to have another child. The vice president, who's 41, has been accompanied on overseas trips by Usha Vance, who's 40, and their children, with the kids often pajama-clad as they board Air Force Two for the overnight flights. Usha Vance, the daughter of immigrants from India, had already been the subject of some public fascination because of her husband. Her pregnancy, which was announced in January, amplified that spotlight since it's rare for occupants of the United States' highest public offices to add to their families while they were serving. The last time a sitting vice president became a new father was in the 1800s. Schuyler Colfax and his wife Ellen Wade had a son, Schuyler Colfax III, in 1870 when Colfax was serving as vice president. Decades before that, John C. Colan and his wife had a son, William, in 1829. The newest addition to Vance's team was part of a recent mini baby boom among members of President Trump's administration. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller's wife, Katie Miller, recently gave birth to the couple's 4th child, and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt had her 2nd child with her husband, Nicholas Rico. Usha Vance recently came under scrutiny after the New York Times fashion critic called attention to the stomach-hugging coral maternity dress she wore for her Father's Day episode of Storytime with the Second Lady. The Times wrote that the attention that Vance, Miller, and Leavitt had put on their pregnancies offered, quote, an image of idealized womanhood that gives literal shape to the pronatist movement, which encourages couples to have as many children as possible to counter declining birth rates. The Second Lady responded on social media, writing, now that we know the politics, or let me try this again. Now that we know the political significance of my $8.75 coral maternity dress from Old Navy, can't wait to hear what the New York Times has to say about my elastic waistband pants and compression socks. In the meantime, enjoy my pregnancy fashion or lack thereof, and a good story with your kids on Storytime with the Second Lady. The vice president wrote, she bought a $50 dress for $8.75. America, meet your next director of the federal budget. All right. All right. Yeah. So Vice President Vance and Usha welcome their fourth child, Alec Neil Vance. The Vice President and Usha have been married since 2014, and they announced they were expecting in January. As I mentioned, I already mentioned the last time, a sitting president or vice president had welcomed a child 156 years ago exactly. The Vances are the latest string of Trump administration higher-ups who've welcomed children into their family over the past year, as I mentioned. All right, there you go. There's the breaking news this morning. Running just a little bit late. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming. I got another thing about J.D. Vance here to get your opinion on when we return. And we got a lot to talk about when it comes to the Democrat Party and what they're looking at as they near the midterm election. We're going to talk about that. A couple of New York State updates. Bruce Blakeman weighing in on the data center moratorium. We'll talk about that. We're just getting warmed up. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Big day of smooth jazz awaits you at the Ferrario Elmira Jazz Festival. Join us at Thorne Street Park Saturday, August 15th for chart-topping jazz keyboardist Brian Simpson and soprano saxophonist Marion Meadows with local favorite Top Shelf. Celebrate with us. Tickets only $42. It's one big day. Buy tickets at ElmiraJazzFestival.com. Brian, Marion, and Top Shelf. One big day.
It's more than music.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, we can think high pressure for a very nice start to the work week. A high of 81 with some sunshine, bottoming out around 63 overnight with increasing cloud cover ahead of some Tuesday rain. We have a warm front crossing the region Tuesday, high of 81, some showers and storms, and this is where the cold front digging through in the evening will be the trigger point for some thunderstorms that may be severe, also some heavy rain possible. We start to clear out on the backside of that system.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to viewer comments. This viewer writes in, the flaws of America are for the most part due to the idiocy of the Democrats and the fake news, especially the fake propaganda spreading fake news. But especially now, the lies spewed by the Democrats and propagated by the leftist media. Additionally, I was disappointed that Argentina didn't win, but was elated that France, initially considered the favorite to win the World Cup, came in 4th place behind England. That was one heck of a game. Lots of goals, lots of fouls. Well, thank you very much. Ken writes in, the talking heads on the legacy media propaganda shows did as expected. They basically said Trump is lying about election integrity and went as far as saying that the information released proves that Trump is lying. Trump only wants the SAVE Act passed so he can control future elections. All I can say is projection, projection, projection. Propagandize the sheeple into believing that the nefarious things that the Democrats do are actually being done by Republicans. It was interesting that Senator Mark Warner on Meet the Depressed said that Trump is complaining about the outcome of the 2020 election, which is the election that he was in charge of. That statement was made to propagandize the low information sheeple into believing that the election must have been fair since Trump didn't win the election that he was in charge of. Any thinking person knows that currently the elections are controlled by the states, not the Fed. So Trump couldn't have been in charge of the election. Meet the Depressed also had an election integrity professional that went into great detail on how safe our elections are. Basically saying, trust us, don't believe what Trump is saying. The elections are secure. Thank you, Ken, for the recap. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. They've been against, to Trump's point, and he said it in his speech to the nation on Thursday, right, that the only reason you could be against the SAFE Act, is if you want to cheat at elections. I mean, I don't know how you could be against voter identification. The American people aren't against voter ID. Something in the 80% of Americans support showing an ID to vote. But I wanted to mention this to get your take on it, and then we're going to talk about Iran. The Telegraph writes that J.D. Vance is breaking ranks in a gamble for power. He's looking toward the next presidential election. He has to consider a prospect that to some in the MAGA movement seems unfathomable. Who and what comes after Donald Trump? The U.S. president, the author of so much controversy and so many news cycles, has monopolized the attention of the political class like nobody else in recent history, and has been doing it for more than a decade. Still, J.D. Vance is better placed than most to imagine life post-Trump. Vance, now widely seen as Trump's political heir, released his second book last month. Strategists warn that in staking out his ideology so starkly in his book, Vance cedes ground to potential Republican challengers such as Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz. It's out of character for Vance, a man who changed his name twice and morphed from branding Mr. Trump's America's Hitler into being his most effective attack dog, to let himself be pinned down. However, others like Mark Short, a veteran Republican advisor, believes his political skill allows him to be flexible on his convictions if he has any. Now that does sound like a veteran Republican advisor, doesn't it? Make sure that you get out there and badmouth other Republicans. That sounds typical of a veteran Republican advisor. That's probably one of the Republican advisors that told us all the only way we could beat Hillary Clinton is with Jeb Bush. Vance has detected a change in the Republican Party and the country at large. Like Richard Nixon, a man whom he openly admires and in some ways resembles, he senses a silent majority he can speak to. Whether that majority can carry Vance to the White House remains to be seen, but he seems prepared to risk it all. Okay. The vice president is a populist intellectual, a former military journalist who routinely derides the media. He's a Catholic who has criticized the Pope for wading into U.S. politics, the isolationist attack dog who savaged Zelensky but tucked his tail between his legs and disappeared when the Iran war broke out. He's one of the most powerful men in the country who pushes conspiracy theories about the deep state. He made his name as Trump critics He made his name as a Trump critic, but built his career as a Trump supporter. Still, to govern is to choose, and Vance has acquired plenty of baggage from his brief time at the top of American politics. Anyway, enough on that. So, yes, he is. Well, the hit pieces are already coming out. Okay, on the Iran war front, another U.S. service member has been killed in the Iran war, Central Command said yesterday, while adding that remains have been found in the area where an American soldier went missing in an early attack. The most recent tragic casualty occurred as U.S. forces attempted to control detonation of unexploded devices from a downed Iranian attack drone in Iraq. One service member was killed and another wounded, suffering minor injuries during the detonation turned deadly. The grim announcement came the day after 2 U.S. service members were killed in Jordan in an Iranian strike, and a third soldier reported to be missing in action. Quote, after a thorough search, U.S. military personnel found unidentified remains at the location earlier today. An examination process to verify the remains is ongoing. The attack has involved both drones and ballistic missiles aimed at U.S. and allied forces stationed in Jordan. None of the recent dead have been publicly identified yet out of respect for the families during the notification process. The U.S. death toll in the Iran war now stands at 17 as the two sides continue to edge closer to a wider conflict. President Trump has called the deaths a shame, but argued that the U.S. mission remains critical. Quote, they did it because they don't want to see Iran have a nuclear weapon. And it just shows you how bad the Iranians are. Now, CENTCOM said more than 50,000 U.S. men and women in uniform are operating across the Middle East. They remain highly vigilant, focused, lethal, and ready. The strikes are designed to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and swiftly punish Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps forces who launched attacks against American service members in Jordan last night. Iran claimed the wide-scale attacks resulted in damage to a nuclear power plant under construction, saying, quote, an attack on a peaceful nuclear facility under international safeguards is a clear violation of international law. In response to the latest U.S. strikes, Iran also carried out a drone attack targeting U.S. military assets and equipment in Kuwait. Now, the U.S. hit Iran very hard, according to the president. It is what is now the 9th night of strikes. Quote, we hit them very hard again tonight. And we did that in honor of the probably 3 as opposed to 2 great patriots. This is when he was speaking to reporters at the World Cup. Trump said Iran had been very, very badly damaged during the continued U.S. campaign. They've lost everything, almost militarily. They've got very little left. They've got some missiles, they've got some drones, they've got some manufacturing ability, not much. We control the Strait, they don't control anything, so we'll see what happens. What we're doing now is we're ending any chance where they can have a nuclear missile. After a week and a half, not 4 weeks, we stopped them from probably, but I don't want to have the word probably. Trump's remarks came as CENTCOM announced that 2 U.S. service members were killed on Friday. War Secretary Pete Hegseth paid tribute to the fallen soldiers, describing them as American heroes who gave their lives protecting their fellow service members and defending the United States from Iran's attack. All right, so how am I doing on time? Man, I'm running late. All right, we got to take another short break. Stay with us. We're moving fast this morning. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Get 185th Chemung County Fair, 5 days of family fun, August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert, August 4th. Tractor Pull, August 5th. Rodeo, August 6th. Truck Pull, August 7th. Demolition Derby, August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Oh, dear Coach.
Dear Coach, they don't teach you that inner strength is the most important kind of strong. But you taught me that.
They don't teach you how to build confidence in yourself or how to deal with all the pressures all at once. But you taught me that.
First tee was more than golf. It's where I discovered what I'm capable of.
You didn't just prepare me for 18 holes. You were preparing me for every day of my life. Learn more at firsttee.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer: good morning. If I'd happened to miss your reporting, if you had not reported on it, did you happen to see the Democrats want to disband the Senate and eliminate the presidency? This would essentially change our Constitution. It would raise a very large red flag. I heard about that. I don't think I did report on it. I heard about it last week with the Senate. I'm not really sure where that comes from. That must be a proposal by the Democrat Socialists of America, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But yeah, just like stacking the Supreme Court. Nothing is off limits to the left. All right, quickly. Iran just crossed Trump's red line, is what Jason Ma from Fortune is reporting. The death of U.S. service members after Iran attacked a base in Jordan followed a week of fighting that had steadily upped the ante and could trigger the resumption of an all-out war. The U.S. military has reinstated a naval blockade and bombed Iran for several consecutive days, concentrating attacks on coastal areas near the Strait of Hormuz, but airstrikes have recently expanded to infrastructure such as railways that could be used to transit weapons. On Saturday, okay, we got enough of that. So crossing Trump's red line, we'll see where that heads. Anthony Blair writes that U.S. airstrikes on Iran hit a nuclear power plant under construction, according to furious Tehran officials. An attack on a peaceful nuclear facility under international safeguards is a clear violation of international law, as I mentioned. That's what Iran posted to social media. The group did not reveal the extent of the possible damage from the attack, which the U.S. has yet to confirm. CENTCOM said the strikes are designed to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and swiftly punish Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps forces who launched attacks against American service members in Jordan. These latest attacks successfully targeted Iranian military coastal surveillance and air defense facilities, according to Central Command. Iranian state media confirmed that the U.S. carried out an attack near Sarik in the south of the country and a second location near Shadgan. The strikes follow a heightened spell of tensions in the region. Now, Kuwait condemned Iran for dangerous escalation after another attack on the country's power plants and water facilities. The Kuwait Foreign Ministry said the latest strike on its power generation station and water facility amounted to a violation of international law, barring such attacks against critical civilian infrastructure. Kuwait's Ministry of Electricity, Water, and Renewable Energy described the attacks as a form of heinous Iranian aggression after other assaults over the weekend of facilities overseen by the agency. The ministry said a fire had been put out following Saturday's attack on its facilities, with repair currently underway to avoid power and water shortages. Kuwait, which houses American military bases and troops, has repeatedly fallen under attack from Iran and the tit-for-tat strikes between Washington and Tehran. About 90% of Kuwait's drinking water comes from these water plants, in which salt is removed from seawater, typically by pushing it through ultrafine membranes in a process known as reverse osmosis. Approximately 86% of nearby Oman's potable water and 70% of Saudi Arabia's drinking water comes from the same process. All right. Now, in Iran, there's a new billboard that threatens Trump as, quote, the next one after the death of Lindsey Graham. The red billboard splashed, "Who is the next one?" Who is the next one, with D and T capitalized, along with the hashtag Lindsey Graham. The late South Carolina lawmaker was among the fiercest critic of the Islamic Republic, repeatedly branding it as the mothership of terrorism and warning the United States would use military force to knock Iran out of the oil business. So who is the next one? D and T for Donald Trump, hashtag Lindsey Graham. Just 5 days before his death, the Republican defiantly scoffed at images of Iranians parading around with a poster of a bullseye on his head, saying, "At least they used a good photo of me." Tehran's latest billboard is controlled by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Linked media organization is regularly used to project messages for the regime, according to Iran International. Its chilling message is the latest in a growing wave of threats targeting Trump that have flooded Iranian public space since the funeral of slain Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Iran's state media, Far's new agency, even published an English-language video on social media this week titled, "Where Do We Kill Trump?" purporting to show the motorcade route to his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida. That was later removed from X. Meanwhile, the Islamic Republic's current Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, warned Saturday of unforgettable lessons if the U.S. continued its attack on Iran, saying, quote, "The great Satan has once again revealed his true and unmasked face." Again, it was a written statement. We have yet to see the new Supreme Leader. Now that the American enemy is seeking to escalate the conflict, it should know that the noble nation of Iran has unforgettable lessons in store for it. Khamenei still hasn't been seen in public since taking over for his father. That was, again, a written statement. Now, when we return, we're going to talk about Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani over the weekend has threatened or vowed, not really threatened, vowed to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We're going to tell you about that when we return. We also have a few things here about the Democrat Party in general, so stay with us. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. A little shy on the waves this morning. We've been getting high numbers early on. But keep them coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Go to your local library, create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine rentals, all with your library card. Go to your local library today.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Is Spectrum Internet? It's the most reliable internet.
It's connecting with my followers out there and in here.
It's secure internet for you and your family.
It's keeping kids like us safe online.
It's Wi-Fi that stays on even when the power doesn't.
Staying connected no matter what.
So what's Spectrum Internet? It's everything you want it to be. Switch today at spectrum.com.
One big day of smooth jazz awaits you at the Ferrario Elmira Jazz Festival. Join us at Thorne Street Park Saturday, August 15th for chart-topping jazz keyboardist Brian Simpson and soprano saxophonist Marion Meadows with local favorite Top Shelf. Celebrate with us. Tickets only $42. It's one big day. Buy tickets at ElmiraJazzFestival.com. Brian, Marion, and Top Shelf. One big day.
It's more than music.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can thank high pressure for a very nice start to the work week. A high of 81 with some sunshine, bottoming out around 63 overnight with increasing cloud cover ahead of some Tuesday rain. We have a warm front crossing the region Tuesday. High of 81, some showers and storms. And this is where the cold front digging through in the evening will be the trigger point for some thunderstorms that may be severe. Also some heavy rain possible. We start to clear out on the backside of that system.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Let's go to some viewer comments, shall we? All right, here we go. Good morning. Glad you are on the station. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Good morning to you as well. Ken writes in, have you read the National Review lately? No, I did see an article not that long ago that I think I quoted on the air, but no, I haven't read the National Review in quite some time. I mentioned in the past that they have changed from what I always thought was fair and balanced coverage of the Democrats and Republicans, including coverage of Trump. Now the magazine is clearly contracted a severe case of TDS. While they are still mostly fair and balanced on the Democrats and Republicans, they're going out of their way to slam Trump on anything and everything he does or says. Whoever's in charge of editing this magazine is ruining their credibility. Yeah, I think the problem, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but it seems like some of the kind of the rhino, maybe not rhino, but the quote-unquote moderate Republicans, the ones that were left behind during Trump's run, again, to quote what I said earlier in the program, kind of the Republicans that told us that Jeb Bush was the only way we could beat Hillary Clinton, those kind of Republicans, the Chris Christie's, the Bill Kristols, those type of people. I don't know who writes for them anymore, but it does not surprise me because they seem like ones that just got left behind when it came to actual conservative politics. But I'd have to see who writes for them. I'd just be curious because I'm guessing it's kind of a who's who of Republicans that always get things wrong is what I'm assuming. But it has been a long time since I've read the National Review, but I appreciate that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. It will be this is Jack. It will be a first for Frankly Speaking today. I will be listening to the show while riding my e-bike 7 miles on my way to the DMV here in Sebring, Florida, before it gets too hot out. At 70, it's like a major marathon for me, even with the pedal assist from a motor. I'm thinking about taking a second battery. Well, thank you, Jack. That is a first. Appreciate that. All right, so Mamdani said that he will arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. Brooklyn City Councilwoman Ina Vernkopf told the New York Post, Mamdani should concern himself with the homeless epidemic, the affordability crisis, and the floods on New York City's roads, rather than illegally meddling in foreign affairs to befriend more terrorists and attempt to arrest our friends. He's the mayor of New York City, not the Secretary General of the United Nations. She fired off a blistering letter to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Sunday, saying Mamdani's threat of an illegal order of arrest must bear consequences. The mayor of New York City does not recognize the jurisdiction of the United States of America and will do anything he can to subvert our constitutional republic. I respectfully request that the State Department issue a stern warning and an opinion as to whether such an act would violate U.S. law, resulting in a prosecution and or criminal action taken by the federal government against Mayor Mamdani. Brooklyn State Assemblyman Kalman Yeager called Mamdani delusional. Now, Mamdani said to the New York Times on Sunday, I believe that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu belongs in The Hague, and said he is having an active conversation about trying to jail the prime minister when he comes to Manhattan for the United Nations General Assembly in the fall. Can you imagine if he tries to pull that off? Democrat Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman said, Mamdani is a clown. It's such a tough guy to say that kind of thing. He has no way to do that. Former Mayor Eric Adams also dumped on his successor, saying this isn't a college protest. Threatening to arrest the democratically elected leader of one of America's closest allies during UN General Assembly week isn't bold, it's reckless. Shosh Bedrosian, a former New Yorker and Israel's most recent representative for the Prime Minister's office, said the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu deserves respect as an elected leader of a Democrat ally of the United States, not baseless attacks from a New York City mayor. Meanwhile, Mamdani remains unfazed by the fact that the Iranian regime, a designated state sponsor of terrorism, continues to operate its UN mission in New York City. But again, this is the full quote from Senator John Fetterman. How am I doing on time? All right, we're doing fine. He said, Senator, it complicates things. This is host Maria Bataroma. Says, Senator, it complicates things that you have got these very far-left candidates winning and socialists now in leadership positions. I mean, you have got the mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, threatening that he will have Benjamin Netanyahu arrested if he comes to New York for the UN General Assembly. which is happening in September. What are your thoughts here on Mamdani threatening to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he comes to the U.S.? Again, Representative John Fetterman saying, quote, well, it's such a tough guy to say that kind of thing. He has no way to do that. Of course, obviously, America's not even a part of that corrupt court. And so he's just a clown to even say that. So he won't try that. And now just sit down and focus on the problems they have in New York. That's really not your purview. You and I know that. Sit down. All right. Netanyahu weighed in on this, and I'm going to tell you about the Democrat Socialists of America here in just a moment. But Netanyahu responded to Mamdani's threats. What Mamdani said to the New York Times is, I believe that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city. And that's something that I plan to do. What a weird way of saying that. When asked by Times journalist Lulu Garcia Navarro what the law allows Mamdani in the city to do, the mayor replied, there's an active conversation with our legal department and seeing what the prospects are that we have in this municipality. So a statement from Benjamin Netanyahu's office saying the ICC is a kangaroo court that has no jurisdiction over Americans or Israelis. Its bogus arrest warrant against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was issued by a disgraced former ICC prosecutor, Karim Khan, a few days before allegations of sexual misconduct against him became public. It was a clear attempt by Khan to divert public attention and seek protection from scrutiny. The Trump administration has brought sanctions against Khan, the court's chief prosecutor, and a dozen other ICC staff in retaliations for warrants the courts issued for top Israeli officials over the war in Gaza and investigations into U.S. personnel in Afghanistan. An investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against Khan found he had engaged in serious misconduct and serious breach of duty. Turning to the mayor, the statement adds, instead of backing Khan's criminal behavior, Mr. Mamdani should focus on fixing the damage his policies have caused New York. Like Karim Khan, Mamdani appears interested in diverting public attention from his follies and attacking the leader of the Jewish state and only democracy in the Middle East. So there you are. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about Mamdani. When we return, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Oh, maybe after this.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. Going to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. Who does that communist pipsqueak think he is? Thank you very much. Coming from a different viewer. Could Mamdani's statement be considered treason? Interesting. And finally, good morning, Frank. Hey, good morning, Mark. I don't see how Mamdani can arrest Netanyahu. He hasn't committed any crimes here. Yeah, it's just to prove his bona fides to the Democratic Socialists of America. Because remember, they have very clearly taken on the position of anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, anti-Jew. Now, Miranda Devine at the New York Post, do I have time for this? I think I do, said our preening mayor, Zohran Mamdani, says his administration's legal department is examining how best to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if the Israeli prime minister visits New York for UN week in September. Saying, quote, he's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. Well, Marco Rubio has thoughts on that and much more, saying the formidable Secretary of State last week announced a campaign to dismantle the ICC brick by brick if necessary. The ICC's interfering with American military and law enforcement operations would mean the death of the U.S. as a sovereign and independent nation. But this is America. Independence is our birthright. We don't intend to trade it for rule by a self-appointed priesthood of international law. Now, Mamdani's belief that as a minor municipal functionary, he wields some imaginary international power to subvert American sovereignty just shows the delusion of his ideology. His authority extends to fixing potholes and collecting garbage, neither of which he does competently. That's true. But his delusion of grandeur are shared by the misfits, ignoramuses, and foreign interlopers who make up his rancid branch of the Democrat Party, the DSA. The Democrat Socialists of America know nothing, have built nothing, and don't understand the country they live in. Yet they imagine that they have the moral authority to tear it down. Their aim is to import foreign conflicts and alien ideologies that are the antithesis of America's founding principles. The DSA's intellectual buffoonery was on full display last week when Mamdani's party capo, Peruvian-born Gustavo Gordillo, told Fox News that his family was forced to come to America because of capitalism and American imperialism, despite having left Peru during the Mao Shining Path's revolutionary reign of terror. That doesn't make much sense, said Martha McCullum, Fox News host. No, it doesn't make sense to a normal person. But when you look at the ideology behind the DSA, there's a twisted internal logic. Leftists are motivated by envy and a poisonous resentment that makes them hostile to everything that has made America successful. As Rubio said last week when opening a State Department conference on combating left-wing violence, something his Cuban family knows a thing or two about. Like Gordillo, Uganda-born Mamdani, and so many of their DSA comrades, from Somali-born Representative Ilhan Omar to Ecuador-born Assemblywoman Diane Marino, came to America, or in some cases were born here, after their families fled countries crippled by socialism, authoritarianism, or economic failure. You would think they might appreciate better than anyone the freedom and prosperity secured by America's constitutional system of self-governance and ordered liberty. That used to be the case. Refugees from the killing fields of Soviet Russia, Mao's China, Communist Vietnam, and Pol Pot's Cambodia were the canaries in the coal mine, warning us about the destructive evils of communism. They did not seek to replicate the fatal mistakes of their homelands and the generous country that had offered them refuge. But that is the mission of the DSA, to use the Democrat Party as their Trojan horse to foment a communist revolution in America. And we've talked about this, I know I'm running late, but we talked about this in the past, that and I know I quote her a lot, and wouldn't necessarily do that. But Melissa Del Rosa, who worked for former Governor Andrew Cuomo, saying that this is a parasite, that they could not win on a line that says Democrat Socialists of America, so they've had to essentially hijack the Democrat Party. But continuing with what Miranda Devine had to say, it's not about free buses or childcare or socialism as they pretend. The grinning zealots of the DSA want to erase borders, abolish the police, ICE, and prisons, seize the means of production, and redistribute wealth in the form of welfare to the millions of people they have imported from the third world who will vote for more of the same. This is not just politics as usual. It is a communist insurgency aimed at destroying America. It is intolerable. The history of the 20th century shows that communism only advances through coercion and violence. a lesson written in the blood of its estimated 100 million victims. It echoes now seen at home in the frightening escalation of political violence by Antifa and other foreign-funded far-left terrorist groups since the Black Lives Matter riots in 2020. Yet the very security apparatus that is supposed to keep us safe turned a blind eye to the violence, even seeming to condone it under Joe Biden. Those days are over. Rubio's State Department conference on Thursday brought together representatives from 67 countries in Europe, East Asia, and Latin America to rally global support against the reinsurgence of far-left terror groups like Antifa. In stirring speeches worth reading in their entirety, Rubio, White House Press Secretary, Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned of the poisonous old ideology that is sweeping into America and vowed to eliminate its inevitable companion, left-wing terrorism, saying, quote, "It is time for the people of the civilized world to defend ourselves against this distinctive and unique evil," said Rubio. Radical leftism may wear various different slogans and ideologies across place and time. They can call themselves anti-capitalism or anti-imperialist or communist or anarchist or Marxist, but the fundamental character is always the same. It is a poisonous resentment, cloaked in the language of equality and justice and liberation, an overwhelming need to tear down what greater men have built, to wreck what is beautiful and what is right on behalf of people who are filled with ugliness. They have nothing else to offer the world, said Rubio. One of the criticisms you sometimes hear of communism is that it sounds good in theory, but never works in practice. That's actually not true. Communism does not sound good in theory. The world it envisions for all of us is small, flat, gray, leveled of all expectation, drained of all that is good and noble in the human soul. The world communism envisions is a world without God. For these architects of revolutionary violence, the towering achievement of our civilization is an unbearable humiliation, a reminder of what they cannot do, and a reminder of what they cannot be. So they choose instead to destroy. Miller bolstered Rubio's insight, saying the leftists look at what is beautiful and what is good and what is natural and is filled with envy and hatred, inadequacy and jealousy, and they covet. And they turn those emotions ultimately into a desire to subjugate, to oppress, and to inflict pain and suffering. It's not a coincidence when you look at these violent Antifa demonstrations that there is not one normal-looking person among them. Every one of them, through the course of their life and their decisions, has scarred their body and their appearance to the point in which the outer appearance becomes a manifestation of their inner hatred. Bessent then unveiled his plan to dismantle the financial networks of the left-wing terrorists, saying these terrorists understand an enduring truth. Societies are really subverted from afar until they have first been weakened from within. It's a lesson America can no longer afford to ignore. We're going to talk a little bit more about the left when we return with hour number 2. Boy, this show's going quickly, isn't it? Thank you for everybody joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world.
Hey, you're sober? You drive.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can thank high pressure for a very nice start to the work week. A high of 81 with some sunshine, bottoming out around 63 overnight with increasing cloud cover ahead of some Tuesday rain. We have a warm front crossing the region Tuesday, high of 81, some showers and storms, and this is where the cold front digging through in the evening will be the trigger point for some thunderstorms that may be severe, also some heavy rain possible. We start to clear out on the backside of that system.
Richard Seeley. I was in the U.S. Navy from 54 to 56.
Jim Morgan, U.S. Navy Air, 1952 to 1956.
I really appreciate the luncheons, mainly because you get the chance to talk to these guys and see their experiences.
And you get, people looking out for you. Because if you don't show up for dinner, they want to know why.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org. Join the Services Fund for Bubbly and Brunch Sunday, July 26th at the Corning Museum of Glass at 11 a.m. Enjoy a wonderful brunch experience while supporting a cause that helps local seniors remain safe and independent in their own homes. Join our online or silent auction to support the fund that makes aging in place possible for so many in our community. Gather with friends, raise a glass, and make a meaningful difference. Bubbly and Brunch, July 26th at 11 a.m. For tickets and details, visit Steuben Senior Services.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Ken writes in, I agree with who might be the only rational person in the Democrat Party, John Fetterman. Mamdani is a joke. Unfortunately, a very bad joke for New York City. I hope the sheeple that voted for him can pay some attention to how the city is deteriorating and eventually vote him out. I would love to see him order the New York City Police Department to arrest Netanyahu and watch his meltdown after they refuse to do his lunatic bidding. Yes, I don't see any scenario where anybody agrees with that. But you're right. I mean, if you look at the homeless encampments, it is wild in New York City. Now, I got to be careful how I word this. It's a little, I guess you would say, gross, but famed progressive CNN pundit Van Jones, he's blasting the far left, the kind of Democrat Socialists of America. Just like, it's interesting, what would you call them? Because you cannot say moderate. Van Jones is no moderate, but kind of the establishment Democrats, I suppose. He said the far left is pushing crazy ideas. I'm a strong Democrat with a winning bipartisan track record. I'm rooted in progressive ideals and policies. Criminal justice reform, Green New Deal, Medicare for all, free education, clean air and water. These are ideas I've fought for my entire life. But some people in groups like the DSA are pushing an agenda far outside those ideals. Supporting Hamas is not progressive. No police, no prisons, no borders is not progressive. Celebrating the murder of Israeli civilians is not progressive. These ideas are regressive. Right now, extremists are trying to sneak backwards proposals into our party, hoping mainstream Democrats are too frustrated with MAGA and the Democrat Party establishment to notice. But we see you. Yes, we want our Democrat Party to be a big tent, but we don't need party poopers. So stop, here we go, stop pooping in the punch bowl and telling us it's ice cubes. They aren't, and we are smart enough to know the difference. The Democrat Socialists of America has touted 4 major victories in congressional primaries thus far. Again, the primary turnout, though, I know they look at these as huge wins and it's the rise of the Democrat Socialists of America. But if you look at the numbers of how few turned out in the primary, now again, the primary system is how it works, so they still won. I'm not saying that. But it's not like it's an overwhelming mandate by the American people, like an overwhelming victory that President Trump won in the presidential election. But yeah, you're starting to see the more establishment Democrats calling this out. But is the damage already done? Is it too little, too late? If you look at Governor Hochul, who is an establishment Democrat, Governor Hochul endorsed Mamdani, was one of the first right out the gate. So is the damage already done? And then we hear about AOC, and she's technically not socialist enough. that we learned last week, the Democrat Socialists of America think that AOC is a sellout and they're going to struggle to endorse her for president. Well, Representative AOC's message on the campaign trail echoed Barack Obama's early rhetoric during the 2008 campaign for president. Ocasio-Cortez is broadening her pitch beyond revolutionary democratic socialism to something closer to Obama's change you can believe in. Former senior Obama advisor David Axelrod also hears the parallels, telling Axios, folks forget how much the Obama campaign in 2008 was an insurgency against the broken politics of those times. So AOC's words, while her own, are familiar in spirit. Campaigning in Michigan, is the answer to our problems to turn the same playbook over and over again? She asked the crowd of Democrats. A playbook that says in order to win, we must be defenders of the same status quo that is drowning us and telling us the aspiration to change our government and the ambition to even try is foolish? No, it's not foolish, Michigan. AOC also channeled Obama's hope and change rhetoric while campaigning in Montana in May, telling voters to ask your skeptical neighbor to believe. It's the only thing we have. Our hope is the only thing that creates change, and that's why so many people try to talk us out of it. El Saad told Axios ahead of the rally that when he first heard Obama speak, I didn't know politics would sound like that. And I think for a lot of people who are listening to what she has said, I think they're feeling the same way. She's not the only potential 2028 contender trying to position themselves as a change candidate, but the 36-year-old New Yorker has less establishment baggage than others. Left-wing Democrats have scored several primary victories this cycle. If El Saad can win the primary in which he is being outspent 12-1 and then the general election in the swing state of Michigan, progressives will see it as a validation of their theory and that they're actually more electable than centrist Democrats by pledging to be bold and shake up the status quo. It also gives AOC or other progressives an electability argument in a 2028 presidential primary. Ocasio-Cortez's allies and her skeptics alike believe she has the ability to broaden Bernie Sanders' progressive coalition. All right, that's enough of that. We talked about this on Friday's show. Someone wrote in, how many Democrat presidential candidates are there? Yeah, I think it is around 50. I think that's what the person had said, because I saw another piece. Where was it? John Ossoff. John Ossoff, amid presidential chatter, hits Trump over elections. Ossoff won his seat in the Senate in a runoff election held on January 5th, 2021, a day before the infamous January 6th invasion of the Capitol. Okay. On Wednesday, he drew headlines for a heated exchange with Jay Clayton, nominated by Trump to serve as Director of National Intelligence. During the confirmation hearing, Ossoff repeatedly asked Clayton who won the 2020 election. Isn't it humiliating to be unable to answer that question, to have to indulge the president's delusions? Anyway, John Ossoff, Senator, presidential chatter. All right. Who knows? There's a lot of people running for president. But going back to the Democrat Socialists of America, they are, in a way, turning on themselves. We've talked about this where, like with AOC, they don't believe AOC is far left enough. This is an interesting piece at the New York Times saying Black and Latino leaders ask, what do socialist wins mean for New York? Basically, what this is complaining in the Democrat Socialists of America is that the whole party of DSA is really run by white people. Now, I don't want to go through the whole piece because it's typical New York Times where they interview individuals, but the angst speaks to concerns from some long-standing residents in rapidly gentrifying neighborhoods where Democrat socialism is gaining a foothold that is being driven by a mostly white young movement that supports the Palestinian cause against Israel. And as traditional Black and Latino power in New York City seems to be eroding, leaders fear that their constituents' bread and butter issues may get overlooked. Just 5 years ago, Eric Adams' victory in a hotly contested Democratic mayoral primary seemed to signal a high watermark for Black political power. Mr. Adams will become only the city's second Black mayor. Alvin Bragg was to become the Manhattan District Attorney. Hakeem Jeffries was on path to become the House Minority Leader. But by 2025, the political winds have shifted. Zohran Mamdani, a Democrat socialist, won the Democrat primary for mayor without the support of a majority of black voters, once thought to be a requisite in New York. Now a similar feeling of existential crisis is brewing after Mamdani's helped 3 like-minded candidates capture House primaries, and the local chapter of the Democrat Socialist of America successfully backed several primary challengers in historically black and Latino neighborhoods. So now, essentially, the New York Times is calling out the Democrat Socialists of America for being, in a way, racist. The tension is not centered on the ethnicity or race of the candidates supported by the DSA. Many are black and Latino. It is more about the group itself. A 2021 national survey of DSA members found that the group was 85% white, a decrease from 2013 when 96% of members were white. About a third of the group identified as teachers, academics, white-collar workers, or tech workers. The Democrat Socialist success in New York prompted some immediate political soul-searching among veteran black and Latino elected officials. All right, so what we now know is that the party is racist as well. When I think about DSA, it goes back to, who are you really helping? Do you really care about what's happening locally? Black and Latino residents make up of just over 50% of the city's population and suffer from disproportionately higher rates of poverty and a massive wealth gap compared with white New Yorkers. Inherent in the divide is a definition of working class. Left-leaning groups like the Working Families Party describe the working class as teachers and nurses who may be in a union but are struggling to afford living in the city. DSA leaders have said that the working class can include tech workers earning high salaries who are struggling to thrive in the city. While black and Latino leaders in New York have typically promoted the importance of public housing or home ownership, Mamdani pushed for freezing the rent for rent-stabilized apartments. He made a campaign promise to deliver free buses for all. The city council instead forced an expansion of Fair Fares, a program that provides half-price trips for the working poor. Anyway, it's interesting to see kind of the civil war in the Democrat Party, but also within that faction of the Democrat Party that is the Democrat Socialists of America. Speaking of these DSA candidates, Michigan Senate candidate Abdul Al-Said, who we mentioned earlier AOC was campaigning with in Michigan, he has questioned whether police officers need to carry guns. That's one of his policy positions. He spent years on the campaign trail protected by an armed guard, according to his former security director. Al-Said, who's been endorsed by AOC in the Democrat primary, has faced renewed scrutiny over 2020 University of Michigan video resurfaced showing him questioning police funding and the need for armed officers. During his Senate campaign, he said he does not support defunding the police. Do people really need to use guns? Do we need as much of a police force? He asked back in 2020. Jordan Dominique, a former Marine combat veteran who served as Al-Sad's security director, accused the candidate of hypocrisy, saying, quote, "I protected this man with a gun for 2 years, some average of 6 to 7 days a week, typically 12 to 16 hours a day. Like so many things with Abdul, it's pure hypocrisy. A small part of me hopes he could win in order to expose the bottomless pit of populism and the heroes leftists continue to create. He might be the only candidate to lose to a Republican in a blue wave cycle." So armed security while calling for defunding the police. All right, we're going to talk. Wow, I'm running late. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Democrat Party. We do have a couple of updates from New York State. So stay with us. Wow, we're moving fast. Don't go anywhere.
The only thing more American than apple pie and 4th of July is baseball. This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Just turn on WJKP 48.2 and grab a comfortable seat right at home to watch baseball history unfold. Make sure you don't miss a home run. And tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Make this the summer Jeep event you've been waiting for. Save over $7,200 on all new 2026 Jeep Wrangler 2-door Sports.
Don't miss the Make This the Summer Jeep event. Drive home your new 2026 Jeep Wrangler today. Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way. Adventure starts here.
Hurry in! When they're gone, they're gone.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can thank high pressure for a very nice start to the work week. A high of 81 with some sunshine, bottoming out around 63 overnight with increasing cloud cover ahead of some Tuesday rain. We have a warm front crossing the region Tuesday. High of 81, some showers and storms. And this is where the cold front digging through in the evening will be the trigger point for some thunderstorms that may be severe. Also some heavy rain possible. We start to clear out on the backside of that system.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horsets. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Mark writes in, is that guy nuts? Disarm the police. They will disarm citizens first if they can. And if they try, they probably will have a revolution on their hands. Thank you very much. Coming from a different viewer. The DSA is now considered racist. Wasn't it obvious given its anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian stance, not to mention its anti-American ideology? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're right. But I'm just saying that's what they're turning on themselves. That's a great question, though. Is that fog or smoke in Corning? I think it's fog. But, yeah, you notice that, too. I was looking out, and, yeah, that's I believe that's just fog. I don't smell the smoke in the air. But good question. But, yes, we always knew they were racist. It's just interesting that they're turning on themselves at this point. Now, Dan Clark at the Times-Union says that Democrats are eyeing momentum in 2026 by targeting Trump's second term. It was just a few short years ago that Democrats in New York lost a handful of seats in Congress that would have otherwise allowed their party to control the U.S. House. That was in 2022, the first year after Governor Hochul became governor and took her place as the de facto head of the state Democratic Committee. Yes, and you remember Nancy Pelosi called her out. It really was. Kathy Hochul, I know, she wants to be a big-time leader, but she was an embarrassment for her party. Democrats lost 2 seats on Long Island, that year and two in the Hudson Valley. They've since won 3 of those 4 seats back. But top Democrats blamed Hochul for their party's loss. Former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was asked nearly 2 years after the election why she thought Republicans were able to flip nearly a quarter of New York's 26 seats in Congress. She says, I think it's related to the gubernatorial race. Hochul wasn't thought to be in danger of losing her bid for her first full term at the time, but in November she came within 7 percentage points of being defeated by former U.S. Representative Lee Zeldin. It was the narrowest margin of victory in a race for governor in nearly 3 decades since Mario Cuomo lost to George Pataki in '94. Hochul began to lay the groundwork the following year to reorganize the state party to be a strong grassroots network that could help bolster candidates from Buffalo to Babylon. That coordinated campaign, as they've called it, is credited by Democrats in New York for the ability to flip multiple seats in Congress from Republican to 2024. And while the party is working to continue the momentum this year, largely by focusing on ousting Mike Lawler, they're not taking anything for granted. Hochul was scheduled to host her first major election rally of the year on Saturday in New York City with two of the other three candidates for statewide office, State Attorney General Letitia James and State Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli. The rally, according to an advisory, took place as New York Democrats invest early, deeper, and at a larger scale than ever before to turn out voters, strengthen the party, and win up and down the ballot. Anyway, Bill Maher was on ABC's This Week. He said Democrats are cowardly. Their party is being taken over. Every day I hear about a new, very radical guy. I feel very good about like 10 whenever years ago. I did lose fans because I wasn't going to go along with some of this crazy stuff on the left. I didn't change really on what I thought about the right, but I can't sit and just not notice stuff, which people seem to want to do because it's all about my team or your team. But yeah, there's some crazy stuff. You know, when you're cheering for the Intifada, cut, I'm out. So Jonathan Karl on This Week on ABC said, so your vote is up for grabs? He said, yes, my vote is in play because it can't be Trump running. So I'm not living in communist America. I mean, I know that the talking point is that it's not communism, it's socialism. Okay, I've read the quotes in the DSA platform from their own mouths. Don't tell me I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. And DSA, again, they say things like takeover of key industries. That's communism. You know there is a definition. So Democrats are cowardly. Yeah, I mean, Governor Hochul is a prime example of that. Governor Hochul and before her, Governor Cuomo, placating, supporting the socialists because they didn't want a far-left challenger. Now we're reaping that decision. Okay. Dr. Oz... Do I have time for that? No, we're going to have to take a break. I don't want to run too late. We have a couple of New York State updates when we return, but Dr. Oz talking about New York's Medicaid system. We'll be talking about that when we return. I see a couple comments coming in, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer: my trip into Lexington and Concord was disappointing. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's leftist country, and that people are rude and overbearing. I have 2 medium-sized dogs that I took on the 5-mile trail. One is older and pants a lot. I carry water and walk slow. Most of them carrying their tiny dogs, and they complain. They don't just have toxic masculinity towards people, but they include dogs too. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's too bad. And please feel free to send pictures if you took any. Federal Medicaid czar, Dr. Oz, said New York's overblown $110 billion spending on medical bills is sickening. And he claimed Chinese crime syndicates are ripping off the Empire State. Social safety net programs are being defrauded. They're being hurt oftentimes by foreign governments or foreign-run criminal syndicate organizations. Oz recently toured Flushing, Queens, where a cluster of 64 social adult care centers operate, most serving ethnic Chinese and Korean senior citizens. Officials claim the center and pharmacies have generated massive amounts of questionable bills to Medicaid, a public insurance program intended to help the needy. The social centers arguably shouldn't be propped up by taxpayers, Oz said. The federal government covers more than half of Medicaid's cost, with the state and local governments covering the rest. Normally, the government doesn't pay for it. In New York, they've created a mechanism to pay for these programs. These are run, we believe, under the auspices of the Chinese organized criminal groups that are also doing human trafficking in the East Coast. Oz, who had been joined on the tour by independent journalist Nick Shirley, said he was stunned by the plethora of pharmacies in Flushing that they also suspect are milking Medicaid. Under the scheme, the scammers will bribe seniors to get access to their Medicaid or Medicare cards and then submit fraudulent bills to the medical program. There are a dozen pharmacies on one block. Why? They're all fake. They're taking these Medicare beneficiary numbers and manufacturing huge business to fund illegal activities. They pretend they're sending this really expensive wheelchair to a patient. They pretend that they're sending expensive random medications. They're doing appointments the patients never go to, tests they never get, treatments they don't receive or don't need. And they begin to bankrupt all the legitimate people because that makes so much money. These programs have generated $2.1 billion against New York Medicaid. And speaking of that fraud, the New York Post had a very, I think, legitimate argument here, saying as Republicans expose fraud in the tens of billions of dollars in Medicaid and other social welfare or other welfare programs, Democrats' response is to duck. They made it glaringly obvious last week as Senator Rand Paul chaired a Senate Homeland Security Committee meeting. Nearly all the panel's Democrat members were total no-shows. Only Senator Gary Peters attended at all, and only long enough to ask a few questions before heading for the door. The hearing actually covered two very different fraud topics. Independent journalist Nick Shirley reviewed his welfare fraud discoveries, including blatant abuses of Medicaid by New York adult daycare centers. Undercover video specialist James O'Keefe testified about his recordings uncovering voter bribery on LA's Skid Row. Strange. Dems have extremely strong views on both issues. They've been slamming Republican moves to trim Medicaid and other welfare outlays for years now, denouncing anti-fraud measures as savage cuts. Senate Democrats are even now using the filibuster to prevent a floor vote that would pass the SAVE Act to counter voting fraud. Yet they simply boycotted a hearing where they could have poked holes in GOP claims as they grilled the witnesses. Do they think their own case is so weak that they don't dare even trying to make it? Now, speaking of the Democrat Party, I know I'm running a little bit late, but that's okay. Hunter Biden revealed what he felt was his father's greatest mistake while president of the United States. Hunter Biden, and did you see on The View, I might not have printed that out, but The View, co-host Anna Navarro praised Hunter Biden as riveting and the biggest troll. We'll talk about that in just a second. But former President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, called the appointment of Merrick Garland as U.S. Attorney General the greatest mistake his father made in office. Wow. She asked Hunter Biden for his opinion on what she described as capitulation by Democrats to Republicans for pushing Garland in the first place. One of the things that I'll just say makes me mad, is the Merrick Garland DOJ and the not prosecuting of Trump, and that they prosecuted you. My take is this, and this is Hunter Biden. My take is this, removing myself from it as much as I can, my personal feelings. It is the single greatest mistake of my father's administration was the leadership of Merrick Garland. The reason that we are in the situation that we're in right now can almost, by the way, the buck has to stop at my dad. He was the president. He chose him. Now, once he chose him, he played by the, a higher standard than the Marquess of Queensberry rules. He played by the Constitution and the tradition that the president will never, particularly since Nixon, involve himself in any decision-making as it relates to anything in the Department of Justice. So I guarantee you there was a division between church and state there. He added more blame to Garland for failing to prosecute Trump for any role in the January 6th Capitol riots, claiming that it was a planned conspiracy through the Trump administration to undermine the 2020 election. If Merrick Garland had started a completely 100% legitimate investigation rather than thinking like he's not fanned the flames, did you not watch what I watched? Did you not see the people storming the Capitol of the United States of America, beating cops and running congressmen and senators literally out of the building? You didn't see that? You didn't see a president and know that it was a concerted and planned effort on their part, beginning all the way back from the day before the election when they knew where they were going? Both Welch, the host of that podcast, and Hunter Biden described Garland as a moderate and suggested that he was only selected by President Biden to appeal to Republicans and as a favor after former President Barack Obama previously pushed him for Supreme Court justice. Obama picks the milquetoast candidate. Your dad is a decent guy, felt bad about what happened to Merrick Garland, and he played integrity politics. So I'm going to make him whole and make him attorney general. And then Merrick Garland gets in there and he's like, we can't upset these crusty white Republicans. Massive mistake, said Hunter. Now, again, you would never hear this of a Republican child of a president, but Ana Navarro said Hunter Biden is riveting. The monetizing of the presidency, the fact that Hunter got dragged through the coals and brought to Congress, to congressional hearings by Republicans for the money that he was making in Burisma, which is not even chump change in comparison to the billions of dollars that the Trump family has made off his presidency. Navarro called the comparison one of the several double standards discussed during an interview for her Bleep with Ana Navarro podcast. Clever name. I wanted him on because I've been seeing his social media and he's become the biggest troll, but he does it also with humor. And he's like, no, I would have forgotten. I've never, when asked about the cocaine at the White House, Hunter said, and he's like, no, I would have never forgotten my coke. The Secret Service closed its investigation. We know nothing about that. Hunter Biden is riveting, she said. We talked for over an hour and a half. Here's the problem. The interview was scheduled at the same exact time as the Argentina versus England World Cup game. Okay. Yeah, that's why no one tuned in. And while his father was president, he didn't make any money. He made money off his paintings. Every painting he sold had to go through vetting, and he had been painting his entire life. President Trump's children are extremely successful business leaders in their own right, running multi-billion-dollar corporations. This is Stephen Chung, White House communications person. President Trump's children are extremely successful business leaders in their own right, running multi-billion-dollar corporations. Hunter Biden smoked crack. We'll just say hung out with prostitutes. He says that a little bit raunchier. And sold ugly paintings for hundreds of thousands of dollars. No one cares what he has to say. All right. We got a little bit more on this. Wow, we got a lot of comments coming in. Keep those comments coming in. I see a couple waves coming in as well. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Having a safe
home is essential to many aspects of our lives, from a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can thank high pressure for a very nice start to the work week. A high of 81 with some sunshine, bottoming out around 63 overnight with increasing cloud cover ahead of some Tuesday rain. We have a warm front crossing the region Tuesday. High of 81, some showers and storms. And this is where the cold front digging through in the evening will be the trigger point for some thunderstorms that may be severe. Also some heavy rain possible. We start to clear out on the backside of that system as
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Oops, wrong one. All right, we got a couple of comments from viewers. First, some pictures from the visit to Lexington and Concord. Let's thank you for sending these in. Here we go. Hey, looks pretty good. That's cool. Thank you for that. I always appreciate people sending in pictures. Oh, look at that. All right. Do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Looks like a fun time. It's too bad. It sounds like you didn't have the best time, but nice pictures anyway. All right. Some comments from viewers. Let's get to them. Where is it? Okay, there we go. So the reason that New York State has a budget 5 times higher than Pennsylvania is because Democrats refuse to investigate Medicaid fraud. Well, it could be a point there. I wonder where else money is being stolen. Great question. Definitely needs. And with Medicaid, they don't even do audits. It's just almost no questions asked. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Is Hunter Biden biased? No, not him. On a different note, why is Letitia James, still an attorney general, given that she is a known liar in the criminal sense? Well, no one's went after it. She does have an opponent this year, so vote her out. Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. After what happened in Minnesota, it's no coincidence that New York and every other blue-run state are full of fraud and corruption. Soon, the only people left in New York State will be illegal aliens, released felons, and corrupt politicians. Thank you very much. Rick writes in, says, good morning. Good morning, Rick. How does the Department of Homeland Security have any authority over the voting process? Mullen thinks they do. The states run their own elections, and they do it legally and by the book. Throw Trump a pacifier so he can get over 2020 and do something useful, like fix his pool or something. Be a leader and tell Iran the way it's going to be, or this is what will happen, and actually do it instead of making idle threats. Trump says he's going to hold Canada responsible for the smoke from their wildfires. Who's he going to hold the U.S. responsible for smoke from our wildfires? Smokey the Bear? Trump spent 116 days out of 545 in office this term golfing. That's 21.3% of the time. Just think if he spent 21.3% of his time of the things he said he was going to do for people, lower costs, low inflation, insurance, no wars. Too bad Ukraine can't get any more support that they are. Russia is just totally demolishing the entire country. They have no business being there. The world needs to put forces together and tell Russia to go back home and stay there. Never happened. Shame for Ukraine. Have a great week. Thank you, Rick. Oh, that was a picture of Fort Ticonderoga. Thank you very much. That's nice. I like those pictures. Thank you very much. All right. So according to Axios, so take it with a grain of salt, they said the Republicans admit the GOP midterm forecast is bleak, but they're clinging to two hopes. voters' fear and loathing of Democrats. It's going to be a hate election, a Republican tied to President Trump's political operation told Axios. Voters have to hate the Democrats more than they hate us, and we have material to work with. There's broad GOP frustration that Trump has made challenging midterm elections worse by not focusing heavily on pocketbook issues. Senator John Cornyn saying, I have yet to understand how we win the midterms by talking about what happened in 2020. Trump hopes his speech will pressure Congress to pass his controversial Save America Act and excite his base voters to turn out. We've studied this, and it's not a winner, said Republican pollsters working on multiple races nationwide. Our research shows people want the president to make their life better, and they don't believe he has. Okay. And then I just can't believe they keep doing this. They try to suggest the Democrat Socialists of America, this is Axios again, far left Axios, saying that they're having a Tea Party-like revolt. The Tea Party was actually supportive of America, and that's the difference. Swing voters have a persistent fear that Democrats will just go far too left. So we can make the case that, yeah, we stink, but they're worse. The president has got to start talking about things people really care about, like tax cuts and not all this other stuff. But we know he won't. Sounds like they got it really fair. There's a reason why that Republican stayed anonymous, isn't it? Now, CBS News put together what's wrong with Congress. Nearly 9 in 10 Americans say they're unhappy with Congress. Quote, it's a great American pastime to hate Congress. But I do think there's a lot of frustration with Congress. That's Carl Hulse, chief Washington correspondent for the New York Times. Hulse has covered Capitol Hill since the Reagan administration. Asked if he sees a broken institution, he said, oh, yes, totally. I unfortunately have said to people, I spent my career covering the decline of Congress. And yeah, they need to get it together, but there's just very, very little cooperation between the parties, and you can't make things happen that way. I do think a lot of them want to do the right thing, and they just can't quite get to themselves there, or can't get themselves there to do it. All right, enough on that. All right, we got to take a short break. And then we're going to talk about New York State issues. Wow, we are moving along fast this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here. Oh, no, we got a second. What am I doing? What am I saying? We got to take a short break. No, mathematically, I'm off. Hold on. Lee Carter writes, after every recent election in which a Democrat socialist or a self-described progressive outsider scores an upset victory, the same debate erupts. Is America really moving that far to the left? Mayor Mamdani's rise in New York reignited the question. Before his campaign collapsed, Graham Plattner's meteoric rise in Maine sparked similar headlines. And now, as Democrats look to replace him, many are rallying around Troy Jackson, a self-described pickup truck progressive. The conventional wisdom is these victories signal a country embracing increasingly liberal ideas. I don't think that's what's happening, says Lee Carter. The rise of Democrat socialism isn't the story, it's the symptom. The real story is that millions of Americans have lost confidence in the institutions they once trusted to solve problems, create opportunity, and make government work. And when confidence in an institution collapses, voters don't necessarily move left or right. They become far more willing to embrace candidates who promise to disrupt the status quo. Gallup's latest polling should be a flashing warning light. Confidence in America's institutions remain near historic lows. Congress commands the confidence of just 9% of Americans. Confidence in the criminal justice system, organized religion, higher education, big business, and many other institutions America once relied upon has eroded dramatically over the past generation. Look beyond the individual numbers and a striking pattern emerges. This isn't a crisis in one institution. It's a crisis of confidence in the entire system. That's an important distinction because politics doesn't happen in a vacuum. Voters don't evaluate candidates based solely on policy positions. They also evaluate whether the institutions surrounding those policies are capable of delivering results. When Americans stop believing these institutions work, they stop rewarding candidates who promise incremental change. The real story is that millions of Americans have lost confidence in the institutions they once trusted. They start looking for alternatives. Some find them on the left, some find them on the right. But almost all of them are looking for outsiders. That's what made Plattner's campaign so compelling before it unraveled. His appeal wasn't simply about progressive policy. He represents a rejection of politics as usual. His outsider status became part of his message. The same is true of Mamdani. Whether you agree with his policies or not, his supporters aren't simply voting for a platform, they're voting for disruption. They're voting against institutions they believe have failed them. And look at what happened in Maine after Plattner exited the race. Many Democrats didn't immediately search for the safest establishment replacement. Instead, attention quickly shifted to Jackson, a candidate who proudly brands himself as a pickup truck progressive and who has built his career positioning himself as a champion of working class people against entrenched interests. Different state, different ideology, the same political demand. We're seeing versions of this story play out across the country. That is why I don't believe the rise of Democrat socialism is the biggest story in American politics. The bigger story is the collapse of confidence that made its rise possible. Until our institutions begin earning back the confidence of the American people, we shouldn't be surprised to see more candidates like Zohran Mamdani or Graham Plattner or Troy Jackson, because they aren't the cause of the political movement. They're the consequence of it. All right, there we go. We'll take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. The president needs to start talking about tax cuts. What about no tax on tips and overtime? Yeah, the media just doesn't cover it. That's the big hurdle there. But yes, I think he could talk about it more, what he's done for the American people. Comment from a different viewer, wondering where all the money goes in New York State. Is it in Hochul's $20 million cash fund? Yeah, $20 million, and then with the Democrats on hand money, closer to 40, I think it was 42 million. Comment from a different viewer. Jackson is a pick up a bottle and throw it at a woman progressive with mortgage fraud allegations. You're right. Allegedly. Comment from Fred, who writes in, hi Fred, strange how I keep hearing John Cornyn's opinion now that he's a lame duck senator who failed to get Trump's endorsement. Yeah, notice that with Tom Massey and others. These people that are about to be retired all of a sudden seem to have a big soapbox. The media loves to cover them. Ken writes in, Trump fits time into his schedule to do something he enjoys and is good at, golf, which is minor in comparison to his 16-plus hour workday. Biden fit in sleep and time out of the office, which were major in comparison to his 4-hour workday. Which would you prefer from the president of the United States? Good point, Ken. Appreciate that. Okay, on the New York State front, New York City's top business advocacy group is slamming Governor Hochul over her one-year ban, that moratorium on data centers. Hochul signed the executive order last week. Steve Fulop, CEO of the Partnership for the City of New York, which represents the largest 300 firms in the city, including those from Wall Street and the broader financial services industry, said the move would leave New York behind other states in the AI boom. Quote, ultimately, the solution is going to be whether data centers get built or they don't get built. The signal when you put a moratorium on this sort of stuff is that it becomes a riskier proposition to put your money into New York versus maybe another state. Absolutely. I mean, and a viewer had mentioned this during Friday's show when we had something with Phil Palmisano on. It's just like when they went after the fossil fuel industry after the fact. Even though the fossil fuel industry followed all the rules, all the red tape, and then years later they were fined billions and billions of dollars, even though they followed every rule. It was kind of grandfathered in. So that's what they're sending to the business community here is with this moratorium. It sends a signal about our competitiveness to the private sector. Other states like Pennsylvania continue to grow, and they haven't put a moratorium on data centers. They work with the communities to find solutions, but they recognize that data centers are important. Data centers house thousands of servers, storage drives, and network equipment used to store, process, and distribute digital information. Philip noted that when you seek information on a mobile phone or a stream, a show, you are interacting with a data center. We need more access to data. A one-year moratorium accomplishes nothing. A one-year procrastination or delay doesn't solve anything. Now, Bruce Blakeman, gubernatorial candidate on the Republican ticket here in New York State, he said Saturday that data centers could bring jobs and lower energy costs to New York if the projects are developed in partnership with local government. What people don't understand is they hear that it requires a lot of energy. It does, but many of these developers are willing to put their own generation into those plants. Blakeman was in town for a meet and greet. Waving the white flag, as Kathy Hochul's done, is the reason why we're number 50 in economic outlook in the whole United States of America. It's the fastest growing industry in the world. It's a big mistake not to do it. It has to be done right. There you are. That's Bruce Blakeman. All right, we got to take a short break, and then we're going to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So get your last second comments in, and we'll be right back after this.
Get ready for the 185th Chemung County Fair. 5 days of family fun. August 4th through August 8th at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Rust and Fright Concert August 4th. Tractor Pull August 5th. Rodeo August 6th. Truck Pull August 7th. Demolition Derby August 8th. Join us for the 185th Chemung County Fair, where tradition meets excitement. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us saying, we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers. We can thank high pressure for a very nice start to the work week. A high of 81 with some sunshine, bottoming out around 63 overnight with increasing cloud cover ahead of some Tuesday rain. We have a warm front crossing the region Tuesday. High of 81, some showers and storms. And this is where the cold front digging through in the evening will be the trigger point for some thunderstorms that may be severe. Also some heavy rain possible. We start to clear out on the backside of that system as we
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. As I was hanging out at my family reunion this weekend, Frankly Speaking came up in conversation. You're a rock star. You can't pick all of your relatives, but I do have a few with some class. Well, that's nice. I'm glad that you guys, I'm sure you had something better to do at a family reunion than talk about Frankly Speaking, but I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. Say hi to the family for me. All right. David Hersani says Governor Hochul signed that one-year moratorium on large-scale data centers. It became the nation's first ban. and it will likely be popular. Polls find widespread opposition to data centers, and the objections seem to be growing. Around 70% oppose construction of a new AI data center in their area, with 48% strongly opposed, only 27% in favor of it. Even in Texas, the energy-rich state with the most data centers, Republican Governor Greg Abbott has called for a ban on new developments in rural areas. The panic surrounding data centers is highly reminiscent of the panic surrounding hydraulic fracturing. And like the fracking ban in New York, also based on junk science and scaremongering, not to mention initially a moratorium, the policy will backfire. The economic case for data centers is indisputable. A single hyperscale facility brings in billions in capital investment, creates a slew of high-paying jobs from construction to engineering, and ensures local government are flush with tax revenue. Big tech boogeymen such as Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta upgrade local infrastructure and create secondary economies, often in struggling areas. Long term, these companies offer self-sustaining economic activity that the magical green industry never did or could. Because energy prices spike, have coincided with the data center debate, one of the major concerns you hear from people is that their utility bill will go up, but the data doesn't bear that out. States with fast-growing electricity rates, such as California, have a few data centers, while states like Virginia, which lead the country in data center energy consumption, have seen electricity prices increase at the national average. There is considerable evidence that the data centers have eased electricity rate hikes over the past decade, as companies took on a growing share of utility costs, reducing the demand on residents. AI infrastructure requires massive amounts of continuous power, and data centers are having rapid expansion in power generation. The solution to high energy demand isn't to build fewer data centers, it's to generate more energy. Trepidation over artificial intelligence also surely plays a role. That's perfectly legitimate and an important debate for society to have. But the most emotional and effective attack on data centers revolve around environmental concerns. Crews installing a major solar project in upstate New York accidentally struck an aquifer while drilling not so long ago. Does AOC believe we should put a moratorium on solar panel projects too? If you care about the environment, you should note that data centers facilitate considerable efficiencies elsewhere, such as remote work that produces commuting emissions, better supply chain organization that cuts waste, and cloud computing that's far more efficient than having everyone running their own servers. The effective voices against data centers, after all, are the same Luddites who've spread environmental hysterics to stop modernization projects such as pipelines and power plants and fracking. Most of their arguments don't hold water. That doesn't mean they're not winning. That's a good point. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. All right, Jack made it. All right. Thanks for watching us. All right, we'll be back tomorrow morning with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Have a great day, everyone.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit AppleRidgeSeniorLiving.com and schedule your tour today.